Hey guys, my name is Fear Dragon, and I'm going to be casting the After Hours Gaming League Season 3 League A Facebook versus Amazon match in Division 1. Wow, that's a really long name. But hopefully you guys are tuning in for the right thing, and yeah, if you guys are watching the video, awesome. Again, my name is Fear Dragon. I'm an amateur commentator, and yeah, we're going to go ahead and get this started pretty soon. So just to outline a little bit about what's going to be happening today. So the first game that we're going to be seeing in just a little bit is going to be Amazon's Metzelma TZ versus Radioactive. And that's going to be a Zerg versus Zerg. There's a little bit of an interesting story behind that game, so I'll come to that in a little bit. But after that, we're going to be seeing Zimbaus representing Team Amazon versus Gunslinger representing Team Facebook, and that's going to be a TVP. And after that, we're going to go into game number 3, which is going to be Akayex versus John Oldman with Amazon versus Facebook. Once again, Zerg versus Terran. And the last game, or game number 4, that we know about, that we may or may not see, is going to be Cicero versus Winkletoss, Amazon versus Facebook, Protoss versus Protoss. And that's only going to come to it if we don't have a 3-0 on either side. And of course, there's also the potential for an ace match where we don't know who the players are going to be. It's just going to be interesting and tons of fun. So yeah, I'm really curious to see if it's going to go to that ace match. I always enjoy when it goes to the ace match just because it's more exciting. There's a lot more on the line. And yeah, with that being said, I think the players are pretty much just getting ready. We're going to again have Metzelma TZ representing Team Amazon versus Radioactive representing Team Facebook. And here's actually the interesting story is Radioactive is actually an ex-Amazon employee, and that also means that he was on AHGL Season 2. He was in Team Amazon, so he knows a little bit about the tricks that Metzelma TZ could play, just because Metzelma TZ, he's not entirely new to the team or by any means. He's actually been with Amazon through Season 2 of AHGL, and we're going to be waiting to see, does Radioactive know what Metzelma TZ is going to be going for? I mean, he might not know specific builds, because obviously this is actually the first season where After Hours Gaming League is going into Heart of the Swarm style games. And with that being said, Radioactive won't really know a whole lot of specific builders, but he might know things about Metzelma TZ's style. And Metzelma TZ actually does have some really cool things in his style. We actually saw him play in the After Hours Gaming League last week against National Instruments, and he actually played a ZVZ over there as well. So what ended up happening is he was playing before on a different map. I cannot remember actually what map, but this game is in fact going to be on Antigua Shipyard, and the game is actually getting started right now. But Metzelma TZ really showing some great micro with the Zergling Banelings, and we're going to have to wait and see. Is he going to be able to do that one more time? With that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump in to the game. Oh yeah, fancy little overlay and everything. And it looks like Metzelma TZ going to be the red Zerg, and Radioactive going to be the blue Zerg. Alrighty, let's get this game started. Spawning down here in the bottom right-hand corner of Antigua Shipyard, we have the blue Zerg representing no team other than Facebook. It is going to be Facebook's Radioactive, an ex-Amazon employee. And his opponent, spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of Antigua Shipyard as the red Zerg player, it is going to be Amazon's representative, and he is going to be Metzelma TZ. And you can see I say Metzelma TZ because there's 1,000,001 ways that you can pronounce this name. I've casted a couple of his games in the past, and I have never decided upon a single name to call him. I've called him Zelma, I've called him Met, I've called him Mats, I've called him Metzelma TZ, and I just you're just gonna have to go with it. You're just gonna have to go with whatever feels right with him. But one interesting note about this map is it looks like it actually has the gold minerals on this version, so that might come into play a little bit later if this goes into a later stages of the game. But I will say, in last week's game of Metzelma TZ versus Radioactive, we actually saw Metzelma TZ go for a bit more of a early gameplay. He decided to go for that Baneling all-in, Zergling Baneling all-in after going for a 14 pool and I think a 15 gas, but it looks like this game, just going to go ahead and plant down that pool around the same time, around 15. Whereas Radioactive actually going for that earlier Gas Geyser. Now, what this earlier Gas Geyser means is that if you plant it a little bit before your spawning pool, you can time it out so that as soon as you put these guys into that Gas Geyser and your spawning pool finishes up, you'll have 100 gas. You can immediately begin that Zergling speed research, which is so important in this matchup. Just because if you're caught out of position with slow Zerglings against Speedlings, you are just infinitely boned. I mean, you have no chance of getting any of those Zerglings out. They're all going to get surrounded and picked off. And it also helps a lot, especially in those engagements with getting the concaves and all of that kind of jazz. So we're going to wait and see if that's actually going to come into play. There is going to be a small little timing window where Metzel Matizi will not actually have Zergling speed research, whereas it looks like Radioactive will. As we can see, he now has enough energy or gas for that Speedling research. It looks like he's not actually spending it. There we go. Worrying me for a little bit, just pooling up 20 gas extra, and it looks like we're going to go ahead and see the expansions coming out of both of these players. Now, this is pretty normal play. You might be thinking, oh, Zerg versus Zerg. We're in the beta. It's in the beta of Heart of the Swarm versus Wings of Liberty. Wings of Liberty, Zergs just felt scared to expand. But this isn't that case anymore. It's in Heart of the Swarm, and people have figured out a lot of the ways that you can get into the later stages of Zerg versus Zerg. An interesting note about Zerg versus Zerg and Heart of the Swarm versus Wings of Liberty is that it's kind of the same up until Lair Tech. So you still have that early Zergling openings, you still have the fear of all of those Baneling moves, as well as when do you end up getting out Roaches. All of that remains more or less the same. So I'm going to be curious to see how these players decide to play it out. It looks like Radioactive, with having that Zergling speed started, is going to just leave one guy in that Gas Geyser. That's going to allow him to eventually get up a Baneling nest, eventually get up a Roaches and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of react a little bit to how his opponent is playing. Now, we do end up seeing a nice little swarm of Zerglings coming out from Radioactive. We're going to have to wait and see what he does with them. He has about 6 Zerglings out on the map at this point, in comparison to the 8 of Metzel Matizi, and Metzel Matizi actually going for a Spine Crawler. And oh my god, a Baneling Baneling nest already finished up, and Baneling already morphing in. So this actually might catch Radioactive a little bit off guard right now, as he's going to be running these Zerglings in. They do have speed, whereas Metzel Matizi, as I was saying before, do not have speed. And it looks like a Baneling does hit. It only hits 2 of those Zerglings, and not the greatest hit in the world, but I mean, he will be able to take it. And with that being said, he's going to fend off all of those Zerglings, and Spinecrawler definitely coming in handy. We can see 2 kills already on that Spinecrawler, and additional Banelings morphing. Looks like Metzel Matizi, I mean, it's kind of curious because he has the Spinecrawler, which kind of signifies I want to be on the defensive. But at the same time, he's gone for these very, very early Banelings, and I'm curious to see what he's going to be doing with them. Is he just going to continue to try and drone up very heavily behind all this and say, you know what, you can't go for any kind of Speedling aggression. I'm going to go ahead and just be super defensive, going to get up a lot of Banelings to make sure you can't do anything with those Zerglings, and then I'm going to get up faster Roach Horn or something of the sort. Or is he going to go for some kind of crazy aggression, using that Spine Crawler as a bit of a, safety net? And we'll have to wait and see. We do end up seeing one of those poor little Overlords just falling to the ground. That's a long fall for an Overlord. I don't know if you guys know, but StarCraft is not exactly to scale. And Radioactive, it looks like he's having a little bit of a sad face as he realizes that he's going to be able to pick off a couple of Zerglings, it looks like. In the meanwhile, Radioactive doing a good job keeping that Overlord over here. Just wants to be sure that he sees if Metzel Matizi does decide to move out. And a second Spinecrawler coming out from Metzel Matizi. And in the meanwhile, we have a Lair starting. Oh, wow. This is going to be interesting as, he only has 1 Gas Geyser. Is now just taking that second Gas Geyser that he's going to need now. We'll have to wait and see how many Gas Geysers he ends up taking. It looks like a 3rd does go down. If we have a 4th one, I'm going to have to say, you know what, this is likely going to be some kind of Spire play. But in the meanwhile, we also have all 4 Gas Geysers being taken for Radioactive, and that Spire, or that Lair already a lot further in. So, wow, we could actually end up seeing a bit of a Roach and maybe Swarm Host play. That is a possibility. I'm actually not entirely sure about a lot of the Swarm Host builds that could be coming out, but it looks like Radioactive wants to know where his opponent's Lair timing is at, and you can see it just clear and fine as day. And yeah, he's going to know exactly where that's at. And that's going to allow him to react a little bit. Now, we do end up seeing a Spire coming down, so Radioactive just going to be making use of those 4 Gas Geysers. He needs to start putting guys on that 4th Gas Geyser, as he's going to be running a little bit low when you go for Mutalisk. And hopefully it does end up realizing that. Hope that's not a mistake, because that could actually just completely discombobulate your economy. And oh my god, what is this? Looks like a macro hatchery placed over at the natural expansion. That's not something you see every day, but we do end up seeing a ton of Zerglings swarming across the map for Metzel and Matisse. They're going to beat the Baneling! Oh my god! The Baneling gets a fantastic hit, and there are not that many Zerglings left over. Just barely enough, maybe, to deal with these Zerglings, but definitely not enough to deal with those Banelings, and it looks like that's going to spell a very, very quick end to Metzel and Matizzi's ability to put on a aggression, but Metzel and Matizzi just going to say, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and take my expansion over here. Now, did he actually end up seeing that macro hatchery? Yeah, it looks like he did. So maybe he was just thinking, hey, you're going to go ahead and take a macro hatchery over your natural expansion. I'll just make my macro hatchery at my third, and when I want to start mining there, I can. But we'll have to wait and see. It looks like Radioactive very much on cue to see when exactly that third timing is going down. So Metzel and Matizzi should be able to clean that up with absolutely no issues. Those two Zerglings, very, very sad Zerglings, but they radioed their message back to their home base, and you know, Radioactive knows about it now. Now we're going to wait and see what exactly is Metzel and Matizzi going for. Looks like the Spire is going to be finishing up in just a couple of seconds, but his Spire is a bit delayed in comparison to his opponent's, who actually just has 7 Mutalisks on the way. Doesn't have any out just quite yet, but now they are popping, and we're going to keep an eye on these Mutalisks to see how much damage they can do. As you can see, really, Metzel and Matizzi, just given by the fact of how he's trying to deal with these Overlords, doesn't really have a whole lot of anti-air outside of Justice Queen. So even though he has some Mutalisks on the way, he actually has 9 on the way. That's going to be pretty good for him. Slightly delayed Mutalisks, but he's going to have more of them immediately. But, you know, we're going to have to wait and see. It's going to come down to Micro on how well these Mutalisks are going to be able to deal against each other. It looks like right now Metzel and Matizzi is starting to lose the Mutalisk battle. He's going to be a little bit careful. A couple of reinforcing Units coming in for both sides, but it looks like a little bit of miscontrol from Metzel and Matizzi, and not really getting that other Mutalisk into the battle, and really just having a bit of a misrally, and that's actually not going to be enough, though, for Radioactive, as Radioactive is going to have to retreat. But here come in the Zerglings. Now, are there any Banelings prepared for Metzel and Matizzi? It looks like there are 3 out on the map somewhere. We're going to have to wait and see where they are, and it looks like now the Zergling on Zergling action while the Mutalisks battle it out in the air. The Baneling is actually exploding for, looks like a Metzel and Matizzi, and Metzel, oh no, Radioactive actually wasting his Banelings on top of the third hatchery, but I'm not sure if it's going to matter, as, yeah, it's just not going to end up going down. It looks like Metzel and Matizzi just has enough to defend right now and can continue to produce additional Zerglings. And with that being said, looks like Radioactive does not feel safe continuing that aggression. We can actually see he is just down about 3 workers, 48 to 51. But of course, the fact is that Metzel and Matizzi has a much higher Zergling count at this point, 22 Zergling lead, and that's going to allow him to put on a little bit of aggression of his own. It looks like the Mutalisks even picking off a couple of these Overlords. That's going to potentially supply block him, but these Mutalisks from Radioactive are going to be able to do a ton of damage to this. Oh my god, hold that thought. There is actually a hatchery that might go down, and no, it doesn't look like it. The Zerglings are just taking a little bit too much damage from that Glaive Worm bounce from those Mutalisks. In fact, in case you did not know, and you weren't that familiar with StarCraft, I don't know, some of you guys are just cheering on your guys' companies and teams, just tuning in just because you want to cheer them on, but you don't really follow StarCraft that much. Mutalisks actually have an attack that will bounce from one enemy unit to the next, and it'll bounce up to 3 times. Well, not up to 3 times. It bounces 3 times and does a little bit of less damage each time it bounces. But that actually means that against those weak Zergling-like units, it's going to be a lot more effective just because they have so little health that taking even a little bit of health away from those Zerglings is going to be very, very effective. Now, look at what a great job Metzel and Matizzi is actually doing, clearing up all those Overlords on the map. And in the meanwhile, it looks like he kept most of his Overlords just at home. Where in the world are his Overlords? Looks like here's where the majority of them are. And yeah, they're just going to go ahead and chill out over here. Overlord party could start dropping some creep and really get the party going, but it doesn't look like he's going to opt for that right now. In the meanwhile, let's go ahead and take a look at the Mutalisks count, 14 to 12. So Metzel and Matizzi looking to be in a pretty good position in this game, just due to how that early game went. But now we end up seeing that Radioactive getting some good shots off on Metzel and Matizzi's Mutalisks. And ooh, we're going to be seeing a gold expansion attempt from Zelma. And I mean, this is going to be interesting. It's going to come down to whether or not Radioactive decides like he can be aggressive, and it looks like this is actually going to be the case. Does he end up spotting it out? He's just going to leave those Mutos over in the center. He's so close. It's right over here. Oh my god, if he can just realize it. And there we end up seeing the Zerglings come in. He's going to have full knowledge of that, and Medzalma TZ is definitely going to have to cancel this. Hopefully he actually gets the cancel in time. Does not get it, and the drone immediately dies, and a very late reaction of all these units. Maybe they're just angry that they just end up losing everything, but the Banelings are about to come in. You can't really see them, but they're about to explode on. Oh no, they actually didn't even need to explode. Looks like they end up taking out all those Zerglings, and oh my god, but it looks like Zelma winning that air battle, especially with all those mules. That's what he has been producing all those mules for, and now he is going to be able to take out all those Banelings that were actually not even utilized during that battle. So really well done by Medzalma TZ, really just knowing how to build the correct unit composition. Radioactive is going to have to come up with some kind of answer. He does have quite a few Spore Crawlers up. He also has that Queen, going to be able to reinforce with some additional mules very soon. And he should be able to fend this off. I feel like Medzalma TZ has to be very careful not to overcommit over here. As you can see over here, he's trying to dance in, trying to see what damage he can get done. And in the meanwhile, producing additional Mutals. We're going to take a look at the upgrades right now. While this battle is going on, it looks like right now the Radioactive is, I think he can actually win this battle right now. It looks like Medzalma TZ may have overcommitted just a little bit, and yes, he is going to be able to fend him off for now. Looks like no upgrades actually done just quite yet for either of these players, although it looks like Medzalma TZ just finished up his +1 weapons on his Mutalisk, and that's going to be very, very effective, and that's going to be so useful, especially in those Mutalisk versus Mutalisk engagements, as neither of these players really want to transition away from that. We're not seeing any of that Heart of the Swarm-ness action. We're not seeing any of those kind of cool things going on. We're just seeing standard Wings of Liberty, Mutalisk versus Mutalisk, ZVZ. And I mean, I can't really blame these players. It can be a little bit difficult to transition into those Heart of the Swarm units, but hold that thought. We have Radioactive trying to snipe off that gold expansion, but this time Medzalma TZ is a little bit more prepared. He's going to have all those units over there in the jiffy and just ready to actually defend this time, so no worries. And it looks like, oh, actually, here's something that I did not note before. It looks like, actually, Radioactive has been getting really good Zergling upgrades. He is already up to 2 on his melee claws for his Zerglings, whereas Medzalma TZ just sitting on 0-0, and that's kind of going to be saying why, you know, in those past engagements, those Zerglings and that ground force from Radioactive has just been able to completely clean up Medzalma TZ. And, you know, you might be wondering, hey, if he's not winning the air battle, what does it matter? Well, you know, he can still be incredibly effective with these Zerglings. After he ends up cleaning up all the Zerglings of his opponent, he can go ahead and do a counterattack. And it looks like, wow, I think Radioactive actually has a much higher Mutalisk count right now, even though he does not have as quite a good of upgrades. But here we go. Here's what I was talking about. The Zerglings, now that they've won that ground battle, they can go ahead and start doing some nice damage over to the drones over at Medzalma's gold expansion, and that's going to cause so much trouble. He has to be a bit careful, though, with these Mutalisks. He does not want to end up losing them to Medzalma TZ's Mutalisks, as it looks like Medzalma TZ might actually be able to clean up this army from Radioactive. It's going to be very, very close, but no, it looks like just barely 1 or 2 Mutalisks extra, and he was able to do it, and it ends up cleaning off that gold expansion, and that's going to be so annoying for Medzalma, as it looks like, I mean, Radioactive already has that 4th expansion up, and Medzalma is just going to be trying to get that up, and he's going to have a hard time transferring drones over here, especially when his opponent, Radioactive, has control of the map, the entire map. And of course, he's even getting the Carapace upgrades. He's going to have the Carapace upgrades done pretty soon, as well as, what is this? We actually have Numanized Carapace. That actually allows just Overlord speed. That's going to allow him to maybe get a little bit better scouting, of course, and keep those Overlords alive a little bit longer, maybe against Beetles that are trying to pick them up. But oh no, worst possible situation for Medzalma TZ. Ends up going for the slightly hidden expansion that is a bit further away. He's going to have a hard time defending this, even loses a couple of drones. He's definitely going to end up losing this, even with these Mules coming in. I'm just not sure it's going to be enough. Even, yeah, 3 Zerglings are going to be able to finish off that hatchery, and there we end up seeing the Zerglings taken out by the Broodlings. Broodlings, the ultimate revenge. Their entire existence revolves around revenge, and then they just die after they've gotten revenge. Or if they fail to get revenge, they just give up and die. So, unfortunate for the Broodlings. Fortunate for Radioactive in the whole, though, as he ends up being able to take out that hatchery. And Radioactive is just going to keep moving around. This is what I really like when a player has that higher Mutalisks count, they stay super active. They take control of the center of the map, especially on a map like Antigua Shipyard, where it's so hard to move units around the vision of the Xel'Naga Tower. And here we actually end up seeing a couple of those Mutalisks getting picked off, and Radioactive has to be a little bit careful. Does not want to lose too many of these Zerglings. As you can actually see, these, oh my god, with +1 weapons, these Mutalisks are actually going to be able to do a lot of damage to those Zerglings. But now we end up seeing Radioactive is actually a little bit lower on the Mutalisk count. He's going to have to retreat, and he's going to have to be very careful, as he's going to be on a bit of a defensive now. And now I feel like Metzel Matizi should be able to pick off a couple more of those Banelings that are morphing in, as well as these Overlords. Going to maybe even be able to pick off this hatchery in the center. But now we end up seeing a reinforcing wave of those Mutalisks. He's going to be able to defend his base just fine over here. And I feel like Metzel Matizi has to make something happen. He's trying to retake this 4th expansion, but the longer that he waits, the worse of a situation he's going to be in. He's behind in the upgrades on his Zergling units. And I mean, yeah, he has +1 weapons done. He's going to have +2 weapons done, actually, very, very soon for his Mutalisks. But Radioactive is going to be in the same boat, so he's not going to really have a whole lot of advantages. Now we end up seeing this Mutalisks versus Mutalisks battle going on, and of course, as you would expect, Radioactive cleans up on the ground and actually forces a retreat from Metzel Matizi on those Mutalisks. And oh my god, this game is just slowly drifting further and further into Radioactive's I guess, advantage. And, you know, it looks like Metzel Matizi trying to go for a couple of Zergling run-bys, but I don't think he actually managed to kill off a ton. Oh, actually managed to kill off 4 workers. So, yeah, not really the biggest deal over there. And, yeah, with this being said, Metzel Matizi is going to have to try and repopulate this entire expansion with just drones from here. I mean, what's he going to do? Try and transfer drones along this long path? Look at how unsafe this feels. This is very, very painful for a drone to do, especially when there are that massive number of Zerglings and Mutalisks out on the map for your opponent that are occupying the center, have control of that Xel'Naga Tower, constantly moving around. It's going to be so difficult. Now, we do end up seeing the Mutalisks trying to come along over here to the 3rd expansion. He realizes he has to do something. He has to come back in some way, shape, or form. It looks like he's going to have to retreat, as that Spore Caller is definitely going to give too much of an advantage to Radioactive. Radioactive is chasing with actually only a couple of his Mutalisks. Has to be very careful of those Mutalisks just turn around. You can actually end up doing a lot of damage, but some really good control by Radioactive, pulling those back just in the nick of time. And a couple of Zerglings over here, it looks like they're just kind of scouting around, making sure that Radioactive doesn't grab a 5th expansion. But here we end up seeing Radioactive. He knows about this expansion. He's moving in with a ton of his Zerglings. And in the meanwhile, it looks like the Mutalisks actually from Metzel Matizi going to go ahead and try and do as much damage. But look at this cute little play from Radioactive. Going to be able to burrow all of those drones. But hey, who says that the hatchery itself can burrow? Nobody. And in fact, it actually just gets taken out, and a couple of additional Mutalisks actually get taken out as well. All these Zerglings streaming over to defend against the Mutalisks, the saddest Zerglings in the world. Maybe they're hoping to eat up some of those Glaive Worm bounces, and these Mutalisks actually, they needed to actually be back and defend, but now they're going to be able to take out 2 queens. That's a nice little win over there. But look at this, Metzel Matizi going ahead and moving into that gold expansion. See how much damage he can do. He's doing a pretty good job, honestly, but still, he has to do something a little bit more. He's lost his 4th expansion one too many times, and now it's going to be so difficult. How exactly does he secure that 4th expansion? He does end up having 2 Mutalisks continuing to harass. It looks like they do end up getting a couple more drone kills, but just not enough. We can see, yeah, the 3rd expansion was taken out, but there was a gold expansion up. There is still a 4th expansion up. I mean, it's a 5-base Zerg versus a 3-base Zerg, and the 3-base Zerg is about to run out of minerals at his only mining expansion. Okay, I really don't count this as a mining expansion, guys. And yeah, he has the gas. That's going to be very, very nice. And yeah, he has a nice little mineral bank for now, but what happens when he starts running out of those minerals? He's not even going to have enough minerals to expand very soon. And how does he deal with this giant Zergling army with 3-1 upgrades? He just doesn't have an answer right now. He has to figure out something. He has to either start doing something like maybe producing some corruptors to try and deal with those enemy Mutalisks. I mean, he has a pretty good upgrade count, but here we go. We actually see some Mutalisks from Radioactive. Oh, wow. Actually, 3-0 on the way for those Mutalisks from Radioactive, and they're actually going to be able to take out the spawning pool. That's so painful. Every single bit of this attack actually matters so much, and looks like a Radioactive is just not even going to be dealt with over in the main. He's just going to, Metzel Matizi is just going to see how much damage he can do. He's going to move in with the Mutalisks, going to be able to take out a good number of those Zerglings, but now we end up seeing Radioactive coming back with those beetles of his own. He's going to see how much damage he can do. It looks like all those banelings, or a bunch of those banelings, do get picked off by the queen, so some nice target fire coming down from Metzelmatizi. But what does he do at this point? He's lost his spire. What units can Metzelmatizi make? He can make drones and overlords. And I mean, he can maybe make some banelings if he had any zerglings on the map left. Yeah, it looks like he has 7. That's not going to be enough. And we end up seeing the big and final engagement as it looks like a Radioactive even leading with the upgrades now finally. 0-3 versus 0-2, and Radioactive taking that advantage once again. The Zergling's even going to be moving over into that third, and the Banelings hitting the drones. That is just, you know, super duper painful at this point. Rebuilding a spawning pool at this point, I am not sure if it's going to be enough. And even though, hey, you do end up cleaning up all of those Mutalisks, and yeah, the Zerglings can't really attack your remaining 4 Mutalisks Metzelma, I feel like your chances in this game are just running a little bit dry at this point. I honestly feel like at this point, Radioactive could just turn all of these guys into Banelings, and there's going to be the GG victory to Radioactive, the Facebook Zerg, and that's going to be the end of game number 1. So with that being said, that was a really fantastic game number 1. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and Facebook actually leads 1-0, and I'm actually just going to make sure I check the chat. I want to make sure that looks like I'm mispronouncing names left and right. But without being said, I just want to make sure that stream is okay. I want to make sure that there's no issues over there, and once we actually end up getting out of this game, should jump into game number 2, and I believe game number 2 is going to be between Amazon's Zimboss versus Facebook's Gunslinger, and that's going to be a Terran versus Protoss on Daybreak. And Daybreak is one of those classic Wings of Liberty maps that everyone seems to know and love, and honestly, I kind of love that map actually. It's probably one of my favorite maps in the map pool right now. With that being said, game is going to be made, and just going to go ahead and make sure once again that everything is okay on the stream. Yeah, awesome! Stream looks good so far, and thank you guys so much. And hopefully you guys enjoy my casting. Please go ahead and subscribe to me. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump into game number 2 very, very soon. The players are just getting ready, and when everyone's ready, we're going to go ahead and jump into the game. Terran versus Protoss, I'll be honest right now, it's actually my favorite matchup in the entire game. It is so interesting, and with Heart of the Swarm, there's also the possibility for all of those other kinds of different styles of play that you can end up doing, i.e. mech from Terran players. You also have the Stargate play that has really been popularized by who was it? White-Raw. White-Raw has really been popularizing the Stargate play in Protoss versus Terran, which is unheard of. I mean, when you think Stargate and Terran versus Protoss, you think 3-gate proxy Stargate all in just because your Terran opponent walled off. And I hate Terran. Blah, I don't want to play this matchup anymore. Well, you don't actually see that much anymore. It's actually just good old standard Protoss Stargate play. You're making a ton of oracles. You're looking super imbalanced if you're White-Raw. You're also going with some of those Void Rays, and the Void Rays have actually been changed as well. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell them I am ready as well. But yeah, so I'm really curious to see if in fact, I think it was Gunslinger is in fact going to be the Protoss player, and Zimboss is in fact the Terran player. So we'll see if Gunslinger goes for some kind of Stargate play. We'll see if Zimboss goes for mech play, or if we're just going to see a standard old game. And you know, I actually have some inclinations about what at least some of the players will do, just because I have been reading and researching on the After Hours Gaming League website, seeing what players are saying in their responses and maybe misinterpreting it. But hey, you know what? It's all in good fun. It's all about predicting it. I don't know if you guys participate in liquid bets. It's all about just trying to guess who you think is going to win, and there's a lot of fun involved in that. And with that being said, game is getting started. I'm going to go ahead and update the overlay. It looks like I actually have the wrong overlay up right now. There we go. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and see Gunslinger representing Team Facebook facing off against Zimboss representing Team Amazon. And I'm pretty sure it's not pronounced Zimboss, but I really like making that sound effect, bouse, like a bouse. I don't know if you guys have seen that video, but regardless, we're going to go ahead and jump in. Oh, my water is so good. It's tasting so fresh. just like this match is about to be, as we go ahead and get started over here in the bottom left-hand corner of Daybreak Ellie. It is going to be the blue Protoss player representing no team other than Amazon. It is going to be Amazon's Zimbaus and his opponent spawning up here in the top right-hand corner of of Daybreak LE. It is going to be the red Terran player representing Team Facebook. It is going to be Facebook's Gunslinger. And it looks like I was totally wrong on those race calls. I actually completely mixed it up. It was in fact Gunslinger being the Terran player. So we'll have to wait and see. And actually, here's what I read. If you go to the After Hours Gaming League website, which you guys should all go do, and check out some of the player profiles for all these players. And oh my god, hold that thought. What in the world? Oh, we're going to be seeing a little bit of cheese out of Zimbaus. This is going to be pretty bouse of him. That is, I think it's a cheese. That's a really early probe scout, right? Or have I just been talking for that long? Have I been talking for that long? We're going to have to wait and see. I think actually I'm just completely talking out of my butt right now. I think that's a totally normal time probe. Anyways, moving right along. If you go to the After Hours Gaming League website and you check out to see what these players have said in their player profiles, we actually see Gunslinger talking a little bit about Heart of the Storm, and he actually says that he's really excited about a lot of the bio changes. Now, I might be overreading this, but I think that Gunslinger is going to feel a little bit more comfortable just going for that bio style play. Now, here we actually have something interesting going on. We have a refinery already going down for Gunslinger, so this could actually mean we will be seeing some of that early actual mech play from the factory. Or we could just be seeing some kind of very fast 3 racks all in coming out of Gunslinger. Either way, it's refinery, especially with having those 3 SCVs this early on, mining gas instead of minerals, is going to delay any attempt at some kind of 1 racks expansion of the sort. So we'll have to wait and see how exactly Zimbaus is going to actually respond. It looks like he's just going to be playing in a good old, standard old Protoss play. Just going to go ahead and get up Cybernetics Core, get up the Gateway, single Gas Geyser. If he ends up taking that second Gas Geyser, that is going to say that, hey, you know what, I want to do a little bit of extra teching rather than going for that faster expansion. But as of right now, we don't actually see any of that. And in the meanwhile, Gunslinger is going to go ahead and complete that wall off and lower one of the supply depots just to make sure that another probe can actually get into the base if he's not paying attention. And in the meanwhile, we see that factory coming down, so it looks like we might actually see some of those cool Heart of the Swarm units for the first time in the entire best of 5 match. And a couple of Marines moving out actually from Gunslinger, so it looks like he's definitely living up to his name, really wants to be slinging those gun bullets over at those probes. And actually the probe moving in at the most baller timing it. Oh, there we end up seeing the nice raise on that supply depot. And actually the probe sees, hey, you know what, where in the world is your command center? Where is it now? And we actually see there's no command center inside of the base. The probe is going to get chased off, and the bunker is actually going to be there probably more as a fake out, just to kind of say, you know what, you don't really know if I'm expanding or not. For all that the Protoss player knows, there could be an expansion or a command center right here, just building inside the main, and it's going to lift it off and put it down over there. So we're going to have to wait and see. Zimbaus does have 2 gateways up as well as an assimilator, but it looks like he does want to throw out that command or that nexus as he is saving up those minerals. We're going to have to wait and see how it's going to end up playing out, as he is going to have to make some kind of defense. The Stalker is poking around, seeing what damage he can do, does manage to almost pick off one of the... actually taking quite a bit of damage, but does manage to pick off that Marine. Generally, you want to take advantage of the fact that a Stalker has 1 additional range over those Marines. You can see 6 range and 0 range as he's actually dead. You can see the arms over there are not exactly touching the gun anymore, so they can't actually fire the gun anymore, and I consider that 0 range. But regardless, Marines do have 5 range, so Stalkers also move a little bit faster. You can take advantage of that and just deal a little bit of nice damage to those Marines and then regenerate with the shields. But Stalker going to be a little bit low in health. An empty bunker is going to do absolutely nothing, and oh my god, if Zimbaus actually realizes this, he will actually be able to move in over here and say, hey, you know what, I can just go ahead and get a scout off. He wants to know, has he expanded? Has his opponent expanded? It looks like, he's just going to go ahead and chill over here. Does not want to risk losing those Stalkers, despite the fact that there's only really 2 Marines over there. Now, he's going to make use of a nice little tactic that you can do. He's going to pull back these Stalkers, just continuously try and do some damage. He can regenerate those shields without any fear. But here we end up seeing, Oh, we're going to be seeing a 1-1-1 build coming out of Gunslinger. And Gunslinger, I mean, he's just kind of throwing it back. He says, you know what? 1-1-1. I don't care if it's Heart of the Swarm. I can still do this. Do you remember how painful it was, Protoss players? I'm a Protoss player, and I freaking hated the 1-1-1. Oh my god, I lost so many games to it. So now we're going to end up seeing... Does actually Zimboss remember how to hold off a 1-1-1? Now, I will say, here are some changes in Heart of the Swarm that's going to benefit Zimboss. He has the Mothership Core, and the Mothership Core will be able to allow him to just use that Photon Overcharge over on that Nexus. And with the Photon Overcharge on the Nexus, he's going to have a Nexus with 10 range. It's going to have the same range as a Siege tank, basically, in Siege mode, which, by the way, doesn't have to research Siege mode anymore. So, I mean, there's that. That's just going to speed up the 1-1-1 potentially a little bit. The other question I'm going to have to wait for to see is there in fact going to be a cloak research? Doesn't look like it right now. So that's going to be a bit interesting, as generally you do end up wanting to research cloak when you go for this 1-1-1. But we actually see another barracks actually just being added on. So going to be a curious little attack, but it's going to be very, very strong and very scary. And Zimboss is going to definitely have to just prepare for this perfectly. He's going to have to micro this out perfectly, because if you make any mistakes holding this off, it's going to be so difficult. But look at this. He is actually sitting on 2 gateways. He's just now adding on a 3rd gateway, but he's going for an incredibly fast Psionic Storm. Now, this Banshee is going to be coming in over here. Now, here's one thing that you have to remember, is that Banshees, especially if they do not have Cloak, can actually just be instantly fed back in just a little bit. Now, this Banshee is going to be able to rack up a couple of kills, but if this High Templar can feed back this Banshee, instantly do a ton of damage. Do we end up seeing yes? And now it looks like the Banshee should be able to go down. There it goes. And this Stalker being very, very happy, or one of these 2 Stalkers being very happy about killing off that Banshee. And that actually is going to alert Zimboss a little bit about what's going on. He's going to say, hey, wait a second. My opponent had a Banshee. I mean, he hadn't really seen a whole lot of what his opponent was up to. But now, oh my god, the Money Probe Scout. He sees the SCV is being pulled. This is so important. Zimboss should know exactly what's going on. He's going to have to prepare so perfectly. He needs to warp in some additional gateways. He's going for a robotics facility. This is really interesting. I think he doesn't know if his opponent has actually gone for Cloak with those Banshees. He has to be so careful. This High Templar does not have enough energy for a Psionic Storm just quite yet. He has to be so careful once again. I feel like maybe, yeah, the cannons will be definitely a nice little addition, but he has to be so careful because those cannons are, in fact, a little bit further ahead of that Nexus. So if, in fact, a Gunslinger is very smart about it, where he positions those Siege Tanks and sieges up, he should be able to take out these Siege Tanks without being in range of the Photon Overcharge, but the Photon Overcharge should be able to be done twice. And there we see a nice feedback on that Banshee, and the Stalker actually so amazingly surviving that. But now we end up seeing, oh, the High Templar getting a magnificent storm. There are no medevacs out on the map right now. That means that these Marines are basically left with all of that health for the entire rest of the game, probably. That Stalker basically getting blown out to smithereens and no chance of surviving over there. But look at this. I mean, all of these SCVs are sitting over here. There's no expansion over here. There's an expansion that's going to be thrown down very soon. But, I mean, the longer that Gunslinger actually waits with this aggression, the worse of a position he's going to be in. It looks like he realized that he's going to go ahead and try and siege up these tanks. Oh, look at this bunker positioning. This bunker will not be able to go up. But now we do end up seeing that all these units are going to start to try and come in. These siege tanks are just doing so much damage. I don't exactly agree with Zimboss's decision to move in over there. Now, he does actually have a Stalker on the high ground. And, oh, the Photon Overcharge making use of itself. Getting a couple of hits off on that Banshee, and this is such a tense moment. We see a Psionic Storm being thrown down, and all of the SCVs go down except for one building the bunker, and that is going to be a money win for Zimboss. And that Banshee is also so low in health. If, in fact, if this High Templar can actually get a feedback off on that Banshee, he's going to have 0 high ground vision. Do we have any additional Banshees coming out? I don't see any of the production kit tab, and I mean, that could actually be, that could be devastating, because then what? I mean, he's going to be relying on scans. Yeah, he does have actually 2 scans saved up, so very wise, but now we also have an Immortal out. He's taking out those Siege Tanks. He's taking them out so quickly, and this Immortal just needs to retreat a little bit, but he's probably not going to realize that there are, in fact, 2 scans available. This one SCV going to be so important for repairing up those siege tanks, as he needs to keep those alive as long as possible, because he can transition out of this. He just needs to have enough time to get up the economy to actually just be able to power up behind this. But he needs to keep this contain alive for as long as possible. Where is the scan? He needs to throw down the scan. He's going to lose one siege tank. He only has one siege tank left. He has a couple of Marines over there. He's going to lose the other siege tank. That could spell doom and disaster. I mean, there's an Archon out. There's going to be even a ton of High Templar out. So these Marines, yeah, they're going to have to go ahead and retreat on home. They have no chance of surviving against the storm potential, especially when none of them have stim pack research. That is going to be absolutely terrible. A terrible, terrible time for them if they are not prepared for that. But it looks like Zimboss realizes the position that he's in. He's going to go ahead and move out with the units that he does have. Now, I'm actually not sure if this is a good idea or if he should just wait a little bit longer. Now, he should actually be familiar with the fact that, hey, my opponent is probably trying to transition out at this point. But is it going to be too soon? Is he going to attack with just... Oh, actually, it looks like he's going to go ahead and pull back. Did he actually catch a glimpse of this Marine? Yeah, I think he just caught a glimpse of that Marine. He's going to go ahead and take that out and then maybe return to knocking down those destructible rocks. And I like the idea of knocking down those destructible rocks. He knows that he wants to attack sometime in the near future. But if he attacks too soon, then he might not have a large enough army. He might not have had enough time to prepare. I mean, look at this. So much of his army is actually just in High Templar. High Templar are amazing against Marines. One, you're psionic storming, but there's a certain point where like you just don't have enough psionic storms. You need to have some kind of good buffer. Now he does have a good number of zealots, but will his opponent have enough? I think that there are quite a few Marines over here, and as long as Gunslinger does some magnificent splitting, he still has a chance in this. We actually have a Raven out as well, and some Psionic Storms completely whiffing, getting us 2 SCVs over into the orange, and there is some good Psionic Storms, actually nailing down a couple of more of those SCVs, as well as some of those Marines, and now another Psionic Storm whiffing, but these Marines are basically completely trapped. Look at how many more Psionic Storms there are still left. We have some more Psionic Storms going down on those SCVs, and it looks like Amazon loving their Psionic Storm, going for the slow with that Mothership Core that was recently given that ability from the Oracle, and now we see the Archons morphing in, all the Marines getting taken out, the natural expansion going to be taken down, the Immortals just racking up the kills, and Zimboss taking the victory for Team Amazon, evening it up the series 1-1. That was a pretty awesome game, guys. I got pretty excited over there, as I will actually admit, I'm a Protoss player, and my favorite unit in the entire game, well, Wings of Liberty, Heart of the Swarm, Brood War, StarCraft 1 Vanilla, definitely the High Templar. I love watching Psionic Storms, and I will say, I was actually, I used to be a little bit of a background history. I used to be an Amazon intern. I'm actually going to be working for Amazon in the future, but regardless of that, I got a chance to cast a lot of different Amazon players, Protoss players games, and they tend to love Psionic Storm. I have to say, they really love Psionic Storm. And we kind of saw a little bit of that, so really cool to see, and we're going to have to wait and see how the next game goes, as the series is actually tied up 1-1, so this means it could be anyone's game. We're at least going to see a game number 4, so we at least have 2 more games coming out, and that's going to be pretty awesome. It's basically turned into a best of 3, and my chat is actually bugging out a little bit, so I can't actually see everything, but thank you so much to IBM SC2 for the compliments. I definitely enjoy casting all these games, and honestly, I just have to give a round of applause to all the like freaking awesome players that have been playing all these games and just showing us these awesome strategies and just showing us awesome micro decision making. I mean, without them, we'd probably, let's be honest, we'd probably all just be sitting here staring at the 1v1 ladder button. Fine match, yeah, right. Go to hell. But anyways, with that being said, we're going to get ready to jump into game number 3. It's going to be a Kayaks representing Team Amazon. He's going to be the Zerg, and I know he's the Zerg this time because I remember it. And also, he's set up as Terran in the game, so now I'm questioning the fact that I just said I know for a fact that a Kayaks is Zerg. Oh shoot, a Kayaks is the Terran. Anyways, it's a Zerg versus Terran this time, and it looks like Kayaks is going to be the Terran versus John Oldman, who's going to be the Zerg player. And yeah, it's definitely Kayaks is definitely the Terran in this game. So, just going to go ahead and let them know that the caster is in fact ready. And yeah, we're going to go ahead and jump into this game. The map is going to be Core Hall City. Now, a lot of you might not be too familiar with Core Hall City. It's one of the newer maps. I believe it's just new with Heart of the Swarm. So we'll go ahead and take a look at it when the game actually gets started, as even I haven't really seen a whole lot of it. So that means that there's going to be a lot of interesting strategies that are going to be very possible on this map. A lot of strategies that might not have been explored, a lot of different exploits that you might find on the map that people haven't really figured out yet how to deal with. So all that kind of stuff and room for innovation, as well as the fact that we're going to be seeing a new matchup, Zerg versus Terran. I'm pretty excited. So with the game getting started, we're going to go ahead and jump in and introduce the players after the game loads. I'm going to go ahead and correct the score screen once again, as it is now 1-1, and we have John Oldman versus AHGL. Oh yeah. And actually, yeah, we see the map over here right now. You can see the 4 different spawn positions and kind of interesting layout of the map. The nice thing about this map that's really key is that your natural is actually just inside of your base. But with that being said, let's go ahead and jump in and introduce these players. Spawning over here in the left side of Core Hall City, we have the Blue Zerg representing Team Facebook, because Facebook is blue. Let's be honest, everyone knows that. It is going to be Facebook's John Oldman. And he's going to be the old geezer playing on this side of the map, but on the other side of the map, his opponent spawning over here on the right-hand side of the map as the Red Terran player. He's going to be representing Team Amazon. His name is going to be Amazon's AHGL for alliterations. The alliterated AHGL from Amazon. Shoot, I said from. The alliterated Amazon AHGL. There we go. Yeah, that's an alliteration. I know English. But regardless, we're going to go ahead and see. This map is really interesting just because, again, you have this built-in natural expansion. It's super duper easy to take. But the trade-off is, in fact, going to be that there is a much wider ramp that you have to deal with walling off. Now, for a lot of Terran players, this really doesn't prove to be that big of a difficulty, especially since we can see over here that John Oldman really not going for any kind of crazy early pools, not going for some kind of 6 pool, and just hope that he gets to his opponent's base before the wall up is done. But regardless, AHGL's going to go for that barracks, and he's going to eventually get that wall up. And of course, what that also means is that he can safely go ahead and take this expansion. Doesn't have to worry about doing some kind of additional wall off. And yeah, I wouldn't be too surprised to see some kind of 1-Rax expansion coming out of AHGL. And in the meanwhile, we're going to be seeing some nice little greedy play from John Oldman. It's not really too greedy, but regardless, he's going to be going for that hatchery first. And I mean, honestly, we see Zerg players tend to go for hatchery first anyways these days. I mean, what's there really to be scared of? There is a couple of cute little plays that a Terran player can do with, say, his first SCV and first couple of Marines. You can go ahead and try and do a little bit of Marine pressure, but you actually don't see that often these days. Generally, players tend to favor that Hellion Banshee style of play, and I'm curious to see how exactly AHGL is going to decide to play this out. Now, I will note, actually, in his last week's games, he actually played a Terran versus Zerg, the same matchup, and it wasn't on Core Hall City. I actually don't remember the map once again, but he did actually opt to go for those Reactor Hellions, and ooh, actually, we're going to be seeing a bit of a different play this game, as, you know, previously he seemed to favor Reactor Hellion into Banshees, but this time it looks like he's going for 2 barracks just to get that wall off done, and oh, Reapers. Oh, for those of you that don't know, or maybe you're watching the video, Reapers right now just recently got the patch that they no longer require the Tech Lab add-on. So now you can just produce Reapers straight out of the barracks. Now this is going to mean that AHGL is going to be going for a 2-Rax Reaper opening. He's going to see how much damage you can do. Now Reapers do significantly less damage now. They do 4 damage, but they will be able to reproduce so much faster. Now, it takes quite a few number of more hits to actually kill off their drone, and we end up seeing, actually, with the regeneration rate, he's going to be able to take 5 hits, or maybe that was 6 hits. I think it was 5 or 6. But regardless, the Reaper still regenerates health, and he's going to be able to do some nice damage to the Zerglings as well, especially since those Zerglings are not going to have speed for any time in the near future. There is 0 gas geysers taken for John Oldman at this point, but he's going to have a lot of those Zerglings that try and deal with this. Now we're going to wait and see. It looks like AHGL moving in. He's going to have difficulty dealing with their Queen, and Queen easily going to actually fend off those Reapers, and that's actually going to be a saving grace for John Oldman. And of course, behind all this, AHGL isn't silly. He's not going to be doing some kind of big all-in on with just 2 Reapers and say, oh god, well, he produced a Queen, I guess I lose. No, Amazon would be very, very upset with him if he was banking on that to be his winning play. No, he's going to go ahead and expand behind this. He's going to just try and do this as an opening to try and force Zerglings, and also just try and pick off a couple of those their drones. Now, Now he does get a nice little position. These queens, despite being on creep, are going to move a little bit slow. We actually end up seeing quite a few of these drones actually taking some damage. We're going to have to wait and see how many of these drones and Zerglings have been picked off, as right now it looks like 4 drones have been picked off, 5 drones have been picked off, 6 drones have been picked off. Wow, these Reapers are actually being super duper effective. You have to be super careful though. Oh, unfortunately, not target firing down from John Oldman. Does not manage to pick off that weakened Reaper, but these Reapers are going to be regenerating their health so quickly. I mean, you would think that they were burrowed roaches, and I want to note that behind all this, we actually see that factory and the starport going down, and we're likely going to be seeing, yep, Reactor Hellions going to be the follow-up. So, Akayak's just taking a Wings of Liberty build and just adapting it a little bit, and I really have to say I love the style play. Now it looks like John Oldman gonna go ahead and take 2 of these their extractors, and we're gonna have to wait and see. I feel like you might be throwing down a Roach Warren in a little bit. We'll have to wait and see if that's actually going to be the case. But here we go again. The Reapers coming in. They're getting some more kills. They're all staying alive. One of those Reapers is so low in health, and one of them does go down. But the other ones are still continuing to rack up kills. 12 drone kills at this point. You can see it's 26 to 28 SCVs and to drones. But I mean, honestly, a Zerg player wants to be a bit ahead in workers at this point. I mean, yeah, he has 10 drones on the way right now, but how is he going to be able to deal with these Hellions that are going to be coming out very soon? We have the Reactor Hellions and Widow Mines coming out. Ooh, this is going to be interesting. Oh my god, 2 starports. What on earth? Okay, I have to go and jump back to something I was bringing up before in last week's games against National Instrument versus Amazon. Akayax was playing a Terran versus Zerg, and what he ended up doing was he opened with a Reactor Hellion. And actually, oh, look at that. Oh, wow, really speedy medevac. But he opened a Reactor Hellion and then also went into Cloak Banshees. As we can see, the Banshees are now being produced. Got a couple of Widow Mines to be defensive. And then also produced some Thors. So basically, he had this mech army of Hellions, Banshees with Cloak, and Thors, and then a couple of Widow Mines to be defensive against Mutalisk. And I think that we might be seeing a very similar thing going on right now. We actually see a 2 Hellion, 2 Widow Mine drop. We're going to see how effective it is, as those Widow Mines could be very effective against all of those drones if they are not careful. And the drone count, there goes some more of those drones. And these 2 Hellions are going to be slightly effective. They're not getting a hugely massive number of kills. But I mean, what detection is there? The lair is in fact done, so he needs to start morphing an Overseer. Hopefully he actually realized that there are in fact 2 Widow Mines over there, as 20 drones have already been killed, 8 more drones on the way, and honestly, we have additional Widow Mines on the way. So this could be a very scary situation over here. And where exactly is that Banshee? Oh, it's taking out the Destructible Rocks to the 3rd, a nice little play. And of course that medevac is going to go ahead and go back. We actually end up seeing 2 Widow Mines about, oh, actually, it looks like they killed off a couple more units. Looks like we have 6 on this one, a Corporal Widow Mine, and 5 on this one. It looks like another Corporal. And, you know, you would never think that a Widow Mine, you know, it's a mine. You don't really think of a Sergeant Widow Mine or a General Widow Mine, but apparently in the Terran army, they're not going to be, you know, prejudice against whether you're robotic or if you have a brain or not. You can still get promotions, and it's a very important part of your daily lifestyle. Looks like a couple more drones have been killed off, and wow, I mean, this Overseer finally coming in, and finally these Widow Mines will be taken out, but not before racking up quite a substantial number of kills. Now, a single Zergling does manage to make its way all the way over into the natural expansion, and all of these SCVs just coming from the bad part of the town, they know how to beat up a Zergling just quite right. And I'm really curious to see why actually Kayaks has not gone in for any kind of attack with those Banshees. I haven't really seen him do any harassment, but now he's going to move in with 4 of these Widow Mines. Not sure how effective this will actually be, as we actually end up seeing a Spire going to be out, as well as the fact that, I mean, there is an Overseer. Oh! Oh my god, did you guys just see that? Oh! Oh my god, okay, I take back what I said. We have 49 drones killed, and the medevac gets away with all of the Widow Mines. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Oh, that was just beautiful. This right here is the MVP. We can see 34 drones to 50 SCVs, and Akayax is just looking to be in a fantastic position in this game. Now, he does also have 2 starports out, can start producing some other units, could maybe make some, yeah, the Raven I was about to say, just to prepare for any kind of weird things that could be going on. Also has Widow Mines. Remember, with Widow Mines, you can be defensive. You can put some Widow Mines in your middle line, And then you will actually be able to defend pretty well against those Mutalisks that are most likely going to be coming out very soon. Yeah, there we end up seeing the Mutalisks coming out. And look at the effect that all of this general harassment has had on John Oldman. He's missing Larva Injects. He's starting to lose some Overlords to that Viking harass. And, I mean, there's 4 more Widow Mines over here, and he just didn't notice actually walk over there and burrow. And now we actually end up seeing a Thor drop. Thank you. Thank you, AHGL, for just making this the most magnificent game ever. The most aggressive style of Terran possible in Heart of the Swarm, probably. And that medevac, oh, he's boosting away, but I think he's going to have this very, very sad moment where he realizes, oh, wait, I don't have enough nitro. I have to get the nitro. As, I don't know if you're playing Need for Speed. Did he just take out some larva? I think he just took out some larva. That was kind of funny. But regardless, we finally do have a couple of those mules out on the map. But do we end up seeing any Widow Mines actually burrowed in those mineral lines? I don't actually see any. We have a couple of missile turrets going up, and that's definitely going to be quite effective, especially with 3 missile turrets in each of these mineral lines. But I'd still like to see maybe just like 1 Widow Mine buried in there. And we actually end up seeing, oh my god! Oh, these Widow Mines could start doing a massive amount of damage to those mules if he's not careful. He needs to actually, oh my god. Now we have a Fire Bat drop, or a Hell Bat drop, I should say, as Aegis takes out even more workers. 58 workers have been killed. We're sitting at 35 drones again for poor John Oldman. I mean, all of these new fancy schmancy units, they just weren't around. So John Oldman just misses the good old days, back in the old man days where you didn't have Widow Mines, and when there was a drop, you just took all your drones and you just kind of hid them, or just split them. Now he has to deal with the Widow Mines, he has to deal with the Thor drops, and all this other kind of crazy shenanigans. Oh man, poor John Oldman. But I will say the fact that he is still in this game means that he still has a plan, yet he still has some hope of winning. So if you are on Team Facebook or just cheering on Team Facebook, please just shout out to your computer. Nobody is listening, but it doesn't matter. All right, I care, and Facebook cares. Go ahead and give a nice shout out to John Oldman. He has a plan. He's the man with a plan, as he would have left the game if he didn't. So we're going to wait and see what is his plan, what is his great hope to come back in this game, and it looks like that hope might just be the Greater Spire. The Greater Spire, the tried and true testament to Zerg play, as so many Terran armies have fallen to the Greater Spire, but we'll have to wait and see. Does AHGL have some sort of a method of preparing for it? Now, the one thing you have to remember is that even though the Greater Spire will be done very soon, I'm not sure that John Oldman actually has a whole lot of resources to actually take advantage of that. So we'll have to wait and see, and it looks like AHGL's just going to be a little bit more passive with his main army, going to continue with these small army drops, but with all of those Mutalisks out, oh, this could actually spell doom and disaster for all these Hellbats, and oh no, the medevac actually just gets out over here, and even if all these Hellbats get picked off, they are still going to be able to do some nice damage to all of these drones. We end up seeing so many of those drones getting so low on health. I think one more Hellbat fire right around this area. We're taking out a good number of drones right there, but looks like that doesn't end up happening. Here we end up seeing that Hellion, Thor, and I guess a couple of Siege Tanks and Banshees mixed in. Just really ultra super duper mech style coming out from AHGL. So AHGL loving the mech style, going for that 4th expansion. A single Zergling going to try and take it out, but it meets its true maker as the Hellion just instantly roasted with Blue Flame and +1/+1. Actually, let's just go ahead and take a look at the upgrades, as we do end up having 0 upgrades, unfortunately, for those flying air Zerg units, but we do have +1 missile attacks on the way, as well as +1 melee attacks, I think. Do the Zerglings have anything more than +1 melee attacks? It doesn't look like, I don't think so anyways. But regardless, we're going to see all these Mutalisks try and come in. They're going to try and deal some good damage to those Vikings, but the Thors are actually just landing so many really key hits. And we actually have +1/+1 on the Zerglings, so forgive me on that. But these Hellbats are just going to be able to toss and turn and just eliminate all of those Zerglings so quickly. But the Zerglings doing a good job catching a couple of those units at a bit of a bad angle, but these Broodlords are just instantly getting taken out. It looks like AHGL was very much prepared for that Broodlord transition, and John Oldman is going to be looking to be in a very, very rough position as this entire army just streams its way across the map. There's going to be the GG coming out from John Oldman, as we end up seeing Amazon take game number 3. And with that being said, Amazon leading the series, this best of 5 series, 2-1, and Wow, some really awesome play coming out from a Kayaks. And I mean, I really don't blame John Oldman for, losing so many workers over there. A Kayaks' harassment was a little bit unorthodox. You don't generally see, for example, the 2 Reaper opening into Hellion harassment with the medevac drops, and then the potential he could have gone for Banshee harassment, but no, instead he decides to go for Thor drops and Widowmine drops and just constantly putting on that harassment. Finally, toward the end of it, John Oldman was able to get up those mules, start fending off that aggression, but at that point he had just lost a little bit too much, and Kayaks was able to take the game. So with that being said, we're going to jump into game number 4. This could be the match point game, as, if Amazon wins one more game, they will in fact win the entire best of 7 or 5 series. But, of course, I'm sure that Facebook has some nice things planned out, and honestly, my second favorite matchup is coming up. I told you Protoss versus Terran is my favorite matchup. Protoss versus Protoss is my second favorite matchup. Now, I know what you guys might be thinking. It's a mirror matchup. How can you... Fear Dragon, how can you love a mirror matchup? I'll tell you why. Protoss vs. Protoss has the most interesting gameplay up until about 2 base, and then it just turns into Colossus Wars. But with Heart of the Swarm, you have a lot of other interesting things going on now in the late game as well. So you have all the Tempest transitions, you have Phoenixes starting to make a comeback, as well as even Void Rays and Oracle harassment, all kinds of crazy stuff. And yeah, just letting them know that I'm ready. And I'm actually just going to go ahead and say that the match is going to be Cicero from Team Amazon versus Winkletoss from Team Facebook. And this time, I can say, without a shadow of a doubt, they're both playing Protoss. I got the races right this time, for once. Oh my god. Okay, and with that being said, the game is about to get started. Players are tossing out the GLHF. I'm going to go ahead and update the score screen, as it is going to be... Oh, no, hold on. There we go. Yeah, I got the right score screen up. So we have Amazon leading 1 or 2 to 1. Oh, hold that thought. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and jump in and introduce these players. Spawning up here in the top left-hand corner of this map, we have the red Protoss player representing Team Facebook. It is going to be Facebook's Winkletoss. And this could often be misconstrued as a wrinkle toss, as, you know, John Oldman, wrinkle toss. Even though Facebook is often thought of as a newer company, really they have a lot of the old geezers there. And in the bottom right-hand corner, his opponent, spawning as the blue Protoss player, is going to be representing Team Amazon, is going to be Amazon's Cicero. And I've been actually yelled at him by him so many times, but I can never remember how to pronounce his name. If it's Cicero or Cicero, or I guess, how would you even pronounce it if you sounded out the C? Kikero? Kikero? I'm gonna call him Kikero. No, I'm not gonna. That's actually a little bit too difficult. Kikero has a very difficult pronunciation to it. But regardless, we do end up seeing a 12 gateway coming out of Cicero. Oh, actually, no. Oh my god, is that a 10 gate? We actually might have a 10 gate coming out of Cicero. And that could actually mean that he's just going for a very big 3 gate all in. And this is kind of like a 4 gate, but it's on 3 gateways and you do it a lot earlier. And this could actually seriously catch Winkletoss completely off guard, because I mean, a lot of players are now experimenting and saying, hey, you know what, I don't actually have to worry that much about the 4 gate anymore. I can get out the Mothership Core. The Mothership Core has just been proving fantastic for holding off all kinds of early aggression, but the question of when a Protoss should get out that Mothership Core has still kind of been up in the air lately. Nobody has really just figured out this really key timing. Oh shoot, I forgot to turn off my PMs. Cicero, well, it's called Cicero, but I'm going to call him Cicero because it annoys him. I'm just kidding. So Cicero will be able to get in there possibly before his opponent has actually even created that Mothership Core. So he won't have the ability to use that Photon Overcharge to try and defend against that big early aggression. And that could really cause a lot of problems unless Winkletoss is really well prepared for this. Now, it looks like he did end up scouting in over here. He should have seen that the gateway was very, very early, but the question is, did he realize it? He could have seen it, but does he realize it? And it looks like he's starting to get 2 gas geysers up and is going to go ahead and get up that Cybernetics Core, not mining fully off of both those gas geysers, just doing what I like to call a Naniwa build, where you put 2 guys in each gas geyser, and this allows you to get up a little bit of extra gas, just because I think that 2 workers in a gas geyser mine about 80% efficiency or 70% efficiency, somewhere around there. And the third worker doesn't actually mine at the same rate as the third. And oh my god! Oh, Cicero. Oh, Cicero, you're just throwing down that pylon and he's scaring Wrinkle Toss. I mean, there's no chance of Warp Gate technology actually being finished up in time for this pylon, but this actually could be. Oh, he's still mining gas. Yeah, he's still mining gas. I was about to say, there's something called a Korean 4 Warp Gate where you actually stop mining gas and you just start building pylons in your opponent's base and try and warp in some zealots. But we do actually end up seeing Cicero has already moved in his first zealot. He's going to try and deal some damage to Wrinkletoss's first zealot and does not manage to take it out. All those pylons to get taken out without a cancel, actually. That's actually a huge mistake, but we see additional pylons going up. The warp gate technology is going to be finishing up. There are 4 gateways already done, and he's now just taken one of those guys off of gas, and we're going to be seeing some very, very scary moments over here for Wrinkletoss. He is not prepared for this. He needs additional gateways up. He's going to have a second stalker up. He's starting to warp in a couple of those units. A couple of those zealots are going to come in, and these probes are going to be very much in danger. There are only 16 probes out for Cicero, though, so, you know, Wrinkletoss can afford to lose a couple of those units. One of the stalkers gets taken out from Cicero, and the zealot actually is going to get taken out as well. Only a probe left over and these 2 pylons. So Wrinkletoss is showing some magnificent micro, and he's really just showing he is going to actually be prepared to hold this off. A couple more units going to be morphed in, just 2 stalkers to try and deal with Wrinkletoss's stalkers, but another stalker pops out from Wrinkletoss. He should actually be able to win this, as Cicero is now microing back his stalker. Does actually, oh, Wrinkletoss doing a great job microing that back. This zealot really hating his life, trying to run away from those other 2 zealots, just getting completely ganged up on and ends up losing that zealot. This stalker is going to go and retreat, and the final pylon does go down, and there are no longer any bases left inside of Wrinkletoss's base that belong to Cicero. That was a confusing statement, but basically the pylons are gone, and Cicero is going to have to find some way to transition. Now, this is the really hard part. Look at this. 13 workers on minerals and 3 on gas. He is so low on workers, 17 workers versus the 21 of his opponent. And you might be thinking, well, that doesn't seem that bad. Well, you also have to realize that, I mean, at this point, Wrinkletoss has a larger army. He can go ahead and expand at this point, honestly. As long as he feels comfortable knowing that Cicero is not about to do another follow-up all-in, he can go ahead and expand and just benefit off of that much larger economy and just let this game spiral out of control into his favor. It doesn't actually look like he's opting to do that, though. He's just actually adding on 2 gateways. He's going to follow it up with his own 4 gate, and it's going to be an interesting decision. I'm not sure exactly how this will end up going, as, I mean, Cicero does have that, in fact, sentry over there. He's gotten up the robotic facility. He should actually be able to force hold off this army for quite a bit of time, especially if he gets up a mothership core. He should be able to at least keep that army at bay for a while, especially if it tries to move up into his main base. And it looks like it's going to be an observer coming up, but oh no, Cicero really just not been warping anything, and everything gets into the main, and oh man, he whiffs the force field. All of these units are going to come into the main, and even though there are 4 gateways, there isn't even enough minerals to actually warp in anything, but just pure zealots, really. At this point, she's going to go after those stalkers. It's a wise decision, but the remaining stalkers are going to come up. A single stalker from Cicero is going to come up, and there is the sad face from Mechatoad, one of Amazon's players. And Cicero trying to fend back all of this army, but it's just not going to be enough. And there's going to be the GG, or I should say, yeah, there's the GG from Cicero, and Wrinkletoss takes it for Team Amazon. So the series is tied up 2-2. The stakes are high. There's only 1 game left. And you know what this means, actually, guys? We're going to go to a short break, as we're going to find out what players are going to be playing next. So we don't actually know. And I need to just do a little bit of, you know, soothing of my voice, as I've just been screaming and I need to drink a little bit of water. But we'll be back in just a little bit, and I'll definitely let you guys know who's going to be playing, what I think the map is already decided. I need to double check what the map is. But basically the players need to be decided, and yeah, we'll be back in just a little bit, guys. Please stay tuned and don't go anywhere. You can listen to this music from DSCA account. You can find them over at youtube.com/DSCA account. youtube.com/DSCA account. Yeah, he does a lot of awesome covers of really awesome songs, including a lot of the StarCraft songs. He's done 4 covers on the Terran theme song, which is, let's be honest, this is the best one. With that being said, stay tuned, guys. Hey guys, you're gonna have to bear with me for just a couple of seconds. We actually already know what the players are going to be, but I just need to go ahead and do a little bit of technical stuff. I need to make sure that my overlay is gonna be in for the next one and make sure that the score screen is gonna be updated. So just bear with me for a couple of seconds. You're gonna see some of the magic. And 1 second. But yeah, the game is in fact going to be AHGL versus Radioactive. Here we go. There we go. Awesome. So now we should be all set up. It is tied up 2-2. There's only one game actually left over, so whoever wins this is going to take the entire series. They're going to do even better, and this is, of course, the group stages. So if you're a huge Amazon fan or you're a huge Facebook fan, don't worry if your team loses. It's only the group stages, and both the teams are up 1-0. They're both fantastic teams full of fantastic players, so I'm sure that both of them will actually make it over into the playoffs. So we'll have to wait and see. Fear Dragon's ready. GLHF to both of the players. We're going to go ahead and get started. Once again, Amazon player AHGL is going to be going off against Facebook's player Radioactive. And Radioactive is, in fact, the ex-Amazon employee and also team player. So he's going to have a little bit of knowledge into the mindset of Amazon players. So we're going to have to wait and see how this goes. The map is going to be Howling Peaks. The game is getting started. Spawning down here in the bottom left-hand corner of Howling Peaks, we have the red Terran player representing Team Amazon. It is going to be Amazon's AHGL looking to close out the series with a 3-2 victory against his opponent. Spawning up here in the top right-hand corner of Howling Peaks, the blue Zerg player, an ex-Amazon employee, but now representing Team Facebook. His name is going to be Radioactive. And this game is about to get started. This is the second Terran versus Zerg that we have seen today, I believe. Yeah, I think it's... Oh, it looks like... Oh, my overlay is not in the proper position. Oh, shoot. Oh boy, that's actually not good. All right, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do this, and then we're gonna do, oh boy. All right, guys, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm going to remove the overlay for this. So those of you watching live, the overlay will in fact not be there, but I will in fact just edit that overlay back in to the video. In case you're watching the video, don't even worry about that little part. We're gonna go ahead and just talk about the game. I'm gonna go ahead and yeah. So it looks like AHGL's going to be going for that one Rax, that standard opening. Not these players really doing anything too crazy, too out of the ordinary. And I would be expecting Radioactive to just be saving up for that hatchery. And there we see that drone going over to the hatchery in natural expansion. And one kind of interesting note about this map is a lot of you guys might not be too familiar with this map, is it does have these two little openings. It kind of is reminiscent of Zelnaga caverns from back in the day, where you have that kind of back door opening that you can run to, especially if you are on the Terran side. You can run in with some Zerglings, do a bunch of harassment over here, and then immediately run out, even if there is a wall off over here. But, of course, there is that nice wide little choke over there the Terran player can try and move up into. And, of course, also, the choke also allows the Terran player to get some nice siege tanks up there to defend. This drone is clearly out for blood. He wishes that he had a home in that supply depot. Look at how inviting that is. There's a nice little hearth of a fire in there. It's just so relaxing. Can you imagine all the Marines just sitting back behind the table, relaxing after the war is done? But you know what? That is not the case right now. The war is not over. The war has just begun, and Radioactive is sending his drone back because there is an enemy SCV on the other side of the map. AHGL looking to do a little bit of scouting information, just checking around. Looks like he was looking at for the third. Also was checking earlier on to see whether or not there was a gas being taken. It looks like that gas geyser does get taken relatively soon. So we should be seeing pretty soon a Zergling speed coming out once the gas exists for that. And this Marine gonna go ahead and knock out these unbuildable rocks, of course also known as the unbuildable Dustin Browders. For those of you more familiar with Wings of Liberty. But regardless, we're going to go ahead and see, oh, a nice little placement for that bunker. That's going to be a pretty safe bunker. It's protected by the most part by this Vespene gas geyser, as well as by this wall and this wall. So that's going to make it very difficult for Zerglings to get a lot of surface area on this bunker. And I really like that positioning for Makai, so we're going to see he's probably going to be going for some kind of, one Rax expansion and then going into the Reactor Hellion build. Now, again, I mentioned before that Akaix had actually played out some games last week, and he had opted for that more mech style of play, kind of like how we saw in his game this week. Although in this week's game, he kind of opted to go for the Reaper opening, which really threw people off. And oh god, he had me worried for a second. I thought the Zerglings were actually going to get in, but the Zerglings do end up scouting out everything. They see, hey, factory and a reactor. I know what that means. Reactor Hellions, man. So he's going to have to go ahead and prepare for that. He can do that in a couple of ways. It looks like his way is going to just be going ahead and getting that Roach Horn. Not probably going to be building too many of those walls. Just going to get a Spine Crawler up as well. So he should be able to defend for that quite appropriately. Now, one other thing to note is that there are a lot of different ways they can play with these Hellions. Some players like to pool up Hellions, and you kind of wait until you get 4, maybe even 6 in some cases, and then you go in and try and seize map control and start doing a ton of damage to your opponent. But some players just kind of like to go out with 2 Hellions and seize map control and then wait for the next 2 and then go in and try and do a little bit of damage. And you're not trying to do a massive amount of damage, you're trying to do a little bit, force some extra Zerglings or Roaches, maybe get a couple of drones. It's not really an all-in thing. The main thing is you're shutting down things like creep spread, you're keeping your opponent from just massively droning up, and with those Hellions, if you decide to transition into the Cloak Banshee or even just a Banshee, you can force the Queens to be in positions where the Banshees will be, the Banshees won't be. So basically, the Hellions come in, they're poking around over here. The Queens have to defend the Creep Tumors and the Spine Crawler and all this other kind of nazi, jazzy stuff. And the meanwhile, the Banshees come in around the backside, where the Queens aren't. So the Queens are not, I mean, they're coming back for larva injects and such, but they're not going to be there to defend against those Banshees. So that's kind of the idea of the Hellions, and this is a trademark Wings of Liberty style of play. Now, we will end up seeing these 4 Hellions try and come in. They're going to roast 1 Zergling. These Queens are definitely going to be able to do a good job of keeping those Hellions back, though. The Hellions are going to have a hard time, and I like the nice little Overlord spread of Radioactive. Has an Overlord over here, has an Overlord over here, has Overlords basically literally surrounding these Hellions, so he knows wherever the Hellions decide to go. So if they try and go for this backdoor opening, the Queens can immediately reposition themselves to defend that. In the meanwhile, we do end up seeing, it looks like the Banshee with no cloak is going to be coming out from a kayak. It's going to be using all of that gas to get those Reactor Widow Mines out. And this is going to be looking a little bit like that other game that we saw Kayaks playing. I think it was game number 3. And I'm really curious to see how effective this is going to be, because, I mean, Radioactive should know a little bit about the style. He was definitely watching on the stream. All these games are being live casted, so he should know exactly how that game went, and he should be prepared. He was probably even observing it, taking note of a couple of things, thinking, hey, if I have to play this guy in an ace match, I should know how to deal with this. Now, we do end up seeing those Hellions doing some good damage over to those Zerglings. A couple of those Roaches should be able to fend them off just fine. And I like the fact that Radioactive really hasn't been overproducing Roaches. He has 2 Roaches. That's like the ultimate underproduction of Roaches, because he realized, hey, you know what, there's not that many Hellions, and of course there aren't actually even any Hellions coming out, any additional Hellions coming out. It was just those couple of Widow Mines. Now, where are those Widow Mines? Looks like one is just being planted over here defensively. We do have those 3 Hellions over there, but here's the Banshee at least. The Banshee just trying to rack up a couple of kills. Managed to get 6. That's actually a pretty good win, especially since the Spore Crawler was not quite finished, but now we end up seeing the Spire going to be finishing up. That should put an end to almost all of that Banshee harassment, as the Banshee has to be so careful once those mules start to come out. And how exactly is a Kayak's going to respond? Now, he did in fact get up that missile turret over there in the main base and over at the natural expansion, so he should be relatively prepared for a Mutals transition. And Radioactive, having those Mutals out, he does have, of course, all 4 of his gas guys taken, because Mutals are super gas intensive. But interestingly enough, he's going for the 3rd a little bit later. So that means that he's not going to have a lot of Mutals. He's going to have a couple of Mutals, but he's going to have them early enough. He's going to be able to do things like this. He's going to be able to pick off that Banshee. He's going to be able to come in for potentially catch a Kayaks a little bit off guard. But, you know, a Kayaks is already very much prepared. He's getting out the 2nd missile turrets already, seeing that Mutals count. And, yeah, he use the second turret and a third turret actually in the main just to cover some of those production facilities. I really like the placement. As you can see, it's really awesome for zoning. The only little area is like right around here where he's going to be a little bit more vulnerable, but he has a bunker over there and such, so he should be able to defend just fine. Oh my god, the Widow Mine even placed really magnificently over there. Going to be able to fend off against some of those mules, but I mean, the mules are doing a good job. They're going to keep, in fact, Akayax at home. He's going to maybe be able to get off a couple of pickups, just picking off some Marines here and there, and also maybe even some SCVs. And in the meanwhile, the important thing is he's taking this third. He's going to maybe, I think that it might be a good idea to try and think about either getting some big tech out, like the infestation pit. That's a really good example of some big tech, especially with the pathogen glands research being done. So we will have infestors out sometime in the near future, probably. And also even just thinking, oh, actually a double infestation pit. Is that a mistake? I mean, you look over here and he's already researching one of the infestation pits research things, and there's only 2 left. So there's Neural Parasite and then there's Enduring Locust. So Enduring Locust, what that'll actually do is it kind of helps out the swarm host a little bit. It increases how long the locust will actually survive. Looks like we're having a pause for a little bit. Go ahead and come back to here for a second. But Enduring Locust will actually just help out the swarm host just a little bit. But I mean, really, I can't really think of any big timings that you could hit, because you have the Infestor Energy plus Neural Parasite plus the Enduring Locust. I feel like he's not going to have enough, especially since he opened up with the 2 base play, to have any kind of massive number of infestors to do a lot of Neural Parasites, and it looks like the game started again, or even to do a lot of swarm hosts. So kind of, I feel like that is in fact a mistake. But regardless, we have some of those swarm hosts coming out, so he might just be looking to prove me wrong. We might see both of those researches coming down in just a little bit, or heck, you know, maybe it's just a preparation. Oh my god, that Widow Mine almost managed to get off some hits on some of those mutalisks, but doesn't look like they end up getting it. But Akayax has already gone ahead and established his third. It looks like doesn't even want to deal with the creep over there, just going to go ahead and do that. But now we end up seeing a drop actually coming in over in the main, and how much damage was done. It looks like that medevac is very low on health. He has to be super duper careful about it, especially since all the mutalisks are coming out, and the mutalisks should be able to pick that off without any problem. And the mutalisks actually taking a good amount of damage, and wow, actually managed to pick off one of those mutalisks. Now how much damage was done? 16 workers actually already killed, so a really good job. And I mean, we still have a pretty even worker count, so of course Akayax investing in all of those Widow Mines, investing in the drop, investing in the Hellions and the Banshee. He has to have some damage done, or otherwise it's just not an even game. Otherwise, in fact, a radioactive would be ahead, so not a huge deal, and it's looking to be a pretty even game at this point. Akayax looks like he wants to move out. Even has a couple of Marauders mixed in now. That is very interesting, and actually has 1-1 done in opposition to just the +1 melee attacks of these Zerglings. You have to be very careful, as these Swarm hosts are getting into a very nice position, as well, it could be a very nice position depending on how mobile Akayax decides to be with this army. It looks like the Swarm hosts are in fact burrowing, but a little bit late, as now we end up seeing, oh no, all the Swarm hosts are basically going to get taken out by this Marine Marauder ball, and that is a huge investment into Radioactive's army. Now we do still have a couple more Swarm hosts over here, but these Siege Tanks just reposition themselves, and now it looks like Akayax may be lacking a scan. Does he have a scan anywhere? No, it doesn't look like he has a scan, but actually surprisingly, there's actually instead just another drop going on in the main. He's going to be able to do some nice damage over here. The Queens and the Zerglings coming in to try and deal with all this stuff, and in the meanwhile, it looks like a couple more units just engaging over there. Finally, the drop does get picked off, but not before losing a ton of those Zerglings, and a nice little part of that medevac. That's actually really cool physics from Heart of the Swarm. But in the meanwhile, you know what that actually does? It pulls all those Zerglings out of position, so now Akayax can push in even further. These Swarm hosts are definitely under a lot of very, very heavy fire, and they have to be very careful. He needs to keep those alive if he wants to defend this. Does he have a Baneling Nest or anything of the sort? No, he doesn't have a Baneling Nest. He's starting to get out some infestors. He has pathogen glands already finished researching, but they're going to be a little bit longer, and I'm not sure if he's going to have enough time to actually save this. And it looks like another Swarm host gets taken down. All of those Queens are getting taken down. The Marines and the Marauders just stimming up and taking out a couple of units and then healing back up, and now we end up seeing the Banelings starting to come in. They're going to get some nice hits off of it, mostly on the tank, and that's not what you want to be doing with those Banelings. A couple more Banelings going to be coming in, but look at this Siege Tank line. It's just a little bit too strong right now, and unfortunately, I feel like Radioactive has to make something happen. There's going to be the GG actually coming out for Radioactive, so Amazon taking the series 3-2 in a very, very close ace match. So very well played by Amazon, very well played by Facebook. But it looks like Amazon is going to go 2-0 in their Group 1 Division 1 section of League A. And Facebook, they're still going to be in a good place. They're going to be tied 1-1 for a win-loss in Division 1. But that being said, that was a pretty awesome game. So congratulations to Amazon. Thank you guys, everyone, for tuning in, and hopefully you guys enjoyed the commentary. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the live commentary, and if you were watching the videos, hopefully you guys just enjoyed the commentary in general, and you decide to subscribe to my YouTube channel or my Twitch channel. It's youtube.com/FearDragon64 and twitch.tv/FearDragon64. And yeah, I mean, I'm really just have to give a big round of applause, though, to all the players showing some really fantastic and innovative plays. I hadn't really seen a lot of the stuff that actually had been done. Just small little cute tweaks that would be done to, say, Wings of Liberty builds. And that just make it so much more powerful because it just goes in line with the same general thought process, but just with the addition of some new units or maybe a new timing that's made available. You can do a lot of these really cool things. And I think that Radioactive was... he was in an interesting position. I feel like maybe if he had been able to not have those swarm hosts at the very first big engagement, be a little bit out of position, he still would have had a very good chance of holding them off. But unfortunately, they got behind the army and they had to burrow, and it was a very slow process. A ton of the Zerglings, the Mutals got wiped out before the swarm hosts could even get out their initial wave of locusts. And with that being said, then the swarm hosts were under fire. They got scanned and taken out, and from then on, Akayax was able to just push forward with that Marine Marauder Siege Tank Ball. So really well done by Akayax, really well done by Radioactive and all the other players. We had Met Zelma, TZ, Radioactive, Zimbaus, Gunslinger, Akayax, John Oldman, Cicero, and Winkletoss. So a big round of applause for all the players that played today. And thank you guys again so much for tuning in. Please tune in for all the other After Hours Gaming League casts. I'm officially not... unfortunately not an official After Hours Gaming League caster. Oh my god, my room got really dark. Oh my god, it's so dark. Hold on, guys, let me turn on the light. There we go. But yeah, I'm not an official After Hours Gaming League caster, but I got the opportunity to cast this. Thank you so much to Cicero for helping me get this opportunity to cast. I had a lot of fun, and hopefully you guys did too. So with that being said, one more congratulations to Amazon, and well played to Facebook, all the players, of course, Super Manor, all saying GG and all that good stuff. With that being said, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you want to stick around, I think I was hinted at the possibility of some extra quote-unquote show matches between some players, either just among Amazon or maybe if Facebook players want to join in. Sorry, just typing in the chat. But yeah, if you want to stick around for that, we'll wait and see if anyone's interested in that. But if not, gonna go ahead and take off. And with that being said, hope you guys are enjoying your lovely Sunday or whatever day it is for wherever you're watching it. And see you guys next time, guys. Tune in for the other After Hours Gaming League cast every week, as the group stages are just starting to pick up. It's only week number 2, and there's going to be a ton of really awesome games, especially as we start to move into the playoffs. It's really cool to see all the different innovative strategies that are coming out, because a lot of the times you'll be watching the pro games, and it's all Wings of Liberty. It's so hard to find a lot of people dedicatedly trying out the Heart of the Swarm beta, and here you kind of see that. You can see those top-notch players playing those games, and hey, you know what? They're top-notch players that also are really smart because they're working at companies like Facebook and Amazon and National Instruments and such. So definitely check it out. With that being said, last thank you guys, I promise, and hopefully I'll see you guys in a little bit. Take it easy, guys. Alright guys, it looks like everyone's kind of chilling out, and I don't think we're going to have any show match games, so thank you guys so much for tuning in. And again, my name is Fear Dragon. You can catch me over at youtube.com/FearDragon64. I'll upload all the videos over there, and the videos will also be available on the After Hours Gaming League website. So again, thanks guys for tuning in. Congratulations to Amazon, and very well played by both teams, Amazon and Facebook. And I'll see you guys next time. Oh yeah, and huge shout out to youtube.com/DSCA account for all of these awesome music soundtracks. There was one of my favorite ones. I'll actually go ahead and play it. It's a Hyrule Field one. Yeah. There's a bunch of awesome covers with electric guitar. So go ahead and check them out. With that being said, I'll see you guys next time.